In this guide, you'll procedurally generate NPCs by randomly generating their first and last name, race, and profession. While not visually impressive, this project will help illustrate what's happening in the background of games that have some sort of NPC generation. This is the starter code for the project. It imports the OS and random modules, which we'll be using later on. The generation screen is where you'll be able to generate a new set of NPCs, select an NPC to view more details, and exit the program. For now, we'll just focus on getting something up on the console. First, we'll write a function that'll print out a formatted title for the screen. We'll call it print title and give it a title parameter. So here we do define print underscore title, give it the parameter, and then we'll just pass for right now. Okay, so we'll start the function off by clearing out the console. So we'll get rid of pass here, and we'll do os.system, and then inside a string we'll do cls. The display title is going to be printed in between two lines of dashes to give it a more formatted look. The number of dashes is equal to the number of characters in the title string. So here we'll just do print. We want to print the dash, and then we'll do times length of title. And then I'll just do Control D to duplicate that. Okay. So now we just have to print the title in between the two lines of dashes. So in here, we'll do print title. Then we're going to create a function called generation screen and call print title inside of it. So underneath print title, we'll do define generation underscore screen. Then we'll do print underscore title, and then we'll enter our desired screen title, and I'll just do generate NPCs. Next, we'll call generation screen inside of the if statement. So down here, we'll get rid of pass and do generation underscore screen. So we also need to display to the user what buttons they can press to control the program. So that's really just a simple print statement inside of generation screen. So under here, we'll do print, and inside we'll do G for generate. We'll do a number or a digit for view NPC. And then finally we'll do Q for quit, and then we'll just do a new line. So now if you run the code, you should see something like this. So the NPC generator is meant to hold all of the possible data and logic that is used to generate an NPC. So we're going to start off with just creating it as a class. So we'll do class NPC generator, define init self pass. So now we need a list that's going to store all of the NPCs that will be generated later on. So inside of here, we just do self.npcs is equal to an empty list. NPCs are going to be given a random first and last name, so we need to store a list of first names and a list of last names. So starting with first names, we'll do self.first underscore names, and I'll just put some names in here. We'll do Elric, Diana, Thorn, Elowen, and Kel. So these are kind of like more fantasy names. Then we'll do the exact same thing, but for last names. So we'll do self last names, Storm, Fell, Night Whisper, Ironwood, Dustgrin, and finally we'll just do Shadowmere. So NPCs will also be assigned a random race, so we need to create a list for that. So down here, actually I probably should make it a little bit bigger for you guys. There you go. So down here we'll do self.races equal to an empty list. And I'll just do human, dwarf, elf, goblin, and finally we'll just do orc. Okay, so finally NPCs will be randomly assigned a profession, so we'll also need to create a list for that. So same exact process, but instead we'll do self.professions, and I'll just keep this simple. We'll just do warrior, mage, and then thief. Okay. Alright, so we currently have all of the necessary NPC data. Now we need to create the logic that actually generates the NPC. So we'll start off with creating a method called generate NPCs. The function will clear out the current list of NPCs and then generate a set number of new NPCs. So right here, we'll do define generate underscore NPCs self.NPCs is equal to an empty list. So we're clearing it out if it's not already clear. Then for underscore in range. And then for mine, I'll just do 10. So we're going to generate only 10 NPCs, but you can change that number if you want. And then we will call self.generate underscore NPC. So now we have to create the method here. This method, generate underscore NPC. Okay. So we'll do define, generate NPC self. Okay. So this function is mainly focused on randomly, well, it's not mainly, this function is focused on randomly selecting the data for each NPC. So we'll start by just randomly selecting a first and last name. Right, so we do first underscore name is equal to random.choice self.first names, and then we'll do the same for last name. So last name is equal to random.choice last names. Then we'll randomly select a race. So we do race is equal to random.choice self.races. And then finally we'll select a profession. So profession is equal to random.choice self.professions. Okay. So the names, race, and profession are now going to be passed into an NPC class object, which we'll create a little bit later. So we'll just go ahead and set that up. We'll do NPC is equal to NPC, and then we'll just pass in, oh, let me make sure I put that T right there on the last name variable. And so now we'll do first name, last name, race, and then finally profession. Okay, so now we'll just store the NPC inside of the NPCs list. So we'll do self.npcs.append NPC. So next we have to create the NPC class that's going to hold the randomized data and store them as attributes. So right here, we would do class NPC, define init, self, and then we're going to make all of the data points parameters. So we'll do first name, last name, race, and then profession. Okay. So now we have to actually store those parameters as attributes. So we do self.first name is equal to first name, self.last name equal to last name, and then sometimes you just want to automatically display the first and last name together. So we'll just go ahead and handle that use case here and do self.name is equal to format first name space last name. So that's already handled. Then we'll do self.race is equal to race, and then self.profession is equal to profession. So now at the top of the if statement here, we are going to initialize the NPC generator. So right here, we'll do NPC underscore generator is equal to NPC generator. And so just to make sure that this is working, we'll call the generator's generate NPCs method, print each of the generated NPCs names, and then wait for the player input to prevent the names from being cleared from the console. So here, we'll just put like a little disclaimer here, for testing only, remove later, okay? And then we'll just do this to keep it separate, okay? So now we'll do NPC underscore generator dot generate NPCs. Then we'll do for each NPC inside of NPC generator.npcs, we are just going to print the NPC name. So print npc.name. And then we'll just wait for player input. Okay, so when you run the code, you should see a list of names printed out here. And if you hit any key, the generation screen should appear afterwards. So now we need to connect the NPC generator to the generation screen by adding player input, but first we need to remove the test code from the previous section. So we'll just take this, backspace. So now we need to place the generation screen function inside of a while loop. So we'll just do while true, and then indent this. Next, we need to capture the player input and then automatically make it lowercase. So we'll do choice is equal to input, and we'll do a little prompt, a string prompt. So we'll do new screen dash dash arrow, and then we'll make it lower with dot lower. Then we need to check if the user enters the letter G, the letter Q, or a digit. So underneath here, we'll do if choice is equal to G, pass, else if choice is equal to, or else if choice is digit, pass, and then else if choice is equal to Q, pass. So entering Q allows the player or the user to completely exit the program, which we can do by breaking out of the loop. So we'll just simply replace pass here with break. When the user enters G, we want to generate a new set of NPCs. So we'll just call the generator's generate NPCs method. So up here, we'll do NPC underscore generator dot generate underscore NPCs. Now that we can generate NPCs on command, we need to make it where we can actually see those NPCs on the generation screen. We'll do that by passing in the list of NPCs and displaying the name of each NPC in a numbered list. So right here in generation screen, we'll pass in NPCs, and then underneath here, we will create a numbered list. So we'll do for I NPC in enumerate NPCs, and then we're going to start with the number 1. We're going to print format. We're going to print the I, or the number, and then we're going to display the NPC name. Since we added the NPCs parameter to the generation screen function, we now have to actually pass the NPCs list from the generator into the function inside of the if statement. So we'll go back down here to the if, and right here in generation screen, we'll just do NPC underscore generator dot NPCs. All right, so now you should be able to enter the letter G to generate a new set of NPCs whose names should appear on the generation screen. And each time you do it, it should be different. You should also be able to enter Q to exit, the program. And you can kind of tell that it's exited if you kind of see something like this, the current working directory. The final thing we have to add is the NPC screen that displays all of the NPCs information. So let's start by creating a NPC screen function with an NPC parameter. So we'll just do it underneath our generation screen. We'll do define NPC underscore screen Then we're going to pass in an NPC. Then we'll add a title using the print title function that also includes the NPC's name. So we'll do print underscore title, format NPC, and then we'll display the NPC's name. Now we'll add print statements that displays the NPC's name, race, and profession. So starting with the name, we'll do print format name, npc.name, then we'll do print, this time we'll do race, and we'll add a new line, so race, and then npc.race, and then we'll do profession, npc.profession. Then we'll tell the user that they can hit enter to exit the NPC screen and return to the generation screen and wait for their input. So here we just do print, new line, and just do press enter to go back, ... and then we'll just do input. In order to get to the NPC screen, the user has to enter the number that corresponds to the NPC they want to view. The NPCs are displayed with 1 base indexing, but they're stored in a generator list with 0 base indexing, meaning that we have to convert the user input from 1 base to 0 based. So in order to do that, we'll go right here under this else if choice.is digit, and then we'll just do index is equal to integer choice minus 1. Now that the input is 0 base, we have to check if there's an NPC in the list that corresponds to that index. If so, we'll call NPC Screen and pass in the correct NPC object. So here we'll do if index is greater than or equal to 0, and if it's less than the length of NPC Generator.NPCs, then we will call NPC Screen and pass in the appropriate NPC Generator.NPCs and then index. Now you should be able to enter a number for an NPC. So for example, I'll enter 1 and we should get Liano Night Whisper. So I'm gonna enter 1. And as you can see, we are now on the NPC screen and all of Liana's information is displayed. And I can press enter and go back, and then we'll just do 5 for Kale. And as you can see, now Kale's information up, and we can go back and so on and so forth. You now have a simple system for procedurally generating NPCs using Python. While admittedly basic and not visually impressive, this kind of shows how games use data and logic to create characters dynamically. So from here, you can expand the system with more attributes to make your NPCs more complex. So thank you for watching.